In the middle of the night, a young man called Neil stares at the door of a room, without showing any reaction. However, this is all just a dream, which is interrupted when his father, Terry, wakes him up in the car. The two are on their way back from the airport and it's clear that their relationship isn't the best. After Neil's mother lost her life, the young man went to live with his aunt in Florida, but things didn't work out and he decided to return to his old town. Minutes later, when they arrive home, they are greeted by a welcome party organized by Angela, Terry's current wife. Neil doesn't like this one bit and rushes off to find his younger brother, Paulie. Before that, he runs into his childhood friend, Kara, who is happy to see him again. The two show that they feel more than friendship for each other, but the young man puts off the conversation and goes after his brother. On entering the house, Neil feels a strange discomfort and calls out for Paulie, but the boy doesn't answer. He then goes to look for him in the bedroom, the same one he saw in his dream, and when he tries to open the handle, the door opens by itself, but there is no one on the other side. Despite his fright, the young man continues to look for his brother, until he finds him hiding in another room, along with his old belongings. Paulie is happy to see his older brother again, but Terry shows up shortly afterwards and scolds the boy for going through Neil's things. The guy gets excited and starts shouting at his son, which forces Angela to go into the bedroom to calm him down. Terry controls himself and tells the guests that the party is over, while Angela advises the brothers to go out and have some fun. They agree to the idea, but before they go, Neil takes his sketchbook with him. Then the two of them take their bikes to the garage and ride around the city streets, just like old times. The brothers catch up, with Neil saying that he was forced to be home-schooled because his aunt thought he was too dangerous to go to school. Paulie tries to comfort him and tells his brother that he's happy to have him back home. During the ride, the two go to a diner, but Neil feels uncomfortable being recognized by the townspeople. Paulie tries to put him at ease and changes the subject, telling him about a classmate he's interested in. Even so, Neil is still upset, so he decides to reveal why he left home. The young man shows him the drawing he made in his notebook of a macabre monster. Neil asks if Paulie has ever seen anything like this inside the house and the boy confirms it, saying that this monster appears every night to torment him. Since then, he hasn't slept properly and has isolated himself in his room, which led his father to believe that he was acting like this because he missed his brother. Because of this, Terry decides to move him into Neil's room, without suspecting that this is the same place where the monster appears. While they're chatting in the cafeteria, Angela finishes tidying up the house and takes out the laundry. As soon as she reaches the garage and turns on the washing machine, the gates close and all the lights go out. Even though she's frightened, Angela turns on the lamp, without realizing that a mysterious hand appears behind her above the washing machine. As soon as the light is switched on, the hand hides itself, closing the lid of the machine tightly. Angela is startled by the noise and everything gets even stranger when the washing machines start to move on their own. Back at the diner, the brothers wait for their order, until Kara shows up to talk to her friend. Along with her, two young men show up, who start to bother Neil because of the rumors about what made him leave town. According to them, Neil set fire to the house and many residents suspect that he was responsible for eliminating their own mother. Paulie gets angry and defends his brother, telling the men to get out of there, which leaves Neil and Kara surprised by his attitude. After this, the brothers return home and decide to prove that the monster really exists. As they enter the bedroom, Paulie tells them that the creature lives under the bed and usually appears at night. The two of them then go to have a closer look, but Terry appears in the room straight away and calls the two of them to dinner. At the table, they meet Angela who, despite the scare in the garage, acts as if nothing had happened. She does her best to make Neil comfortable, but the young man believes she is trying to replace his mother and refuses to eat or talk. Paulie tries to break the ice and asks where his brother is staying, but Terry says they'll sleep together until the other room is ready. With no choice, the two share a room for the night and, as they sleep, footsteps are heard on the other side of the door. The next day, Neil takes Paulie to school and, on the way back, he meets Kara again, along with her friends. Even though he wants to talk to her, he leaves because he doesn't feel comfortable interacting with other people. In the meantime, Paulie tries to concentrate in class, but he ends up dozing off in his chair. Seconds later, the boy wakes up and finds himself in a completely dark room. As he looks around, a strange guy with a scary face tries to attack him, causing Paulie to wake up screaming and scaring the whole class. Because of this incident, Terry calls his two sons in for a chat and tells Paulie that he will be off school for a while. He believes that the two boys haven't yet gotten over the loss of their mother and need to learn to cope before they can interact with other people. Terry also warns Neil that it's past time for him to take responsibility and tells him to get a job. The conversation becomes increasingly tense between the family, until the brothers are distracted by a strange noise coming from the bedroom. With no idea what's going on, Terry is enraged by the boys' apparent disregard and tells them both to go to bed. As punishment, he locks them in the bedroom and will only open the door if they need to go to the bathroom. Seeing that they are trapped together with the monster under the bed, Paulie says that the best way to protect themselves is to leave the bedroom lights on. However, Neil decides to do a test by turning off the lights, and his suspicions are confirmed when the creature lets out a huge roar. Paulie turns the light back on and lies down on the mattress, while Neil tries to get some rest on the dresser. Due to tiredness, they both end up dozing off, but just then, a heavy mist begins to rise from under the bed and the light in the room goes out. Soon afterwards, the whole place starts to shake and a mysterious force makes the objects in the room float in midair. The boys panic, but things only get worse when Terry appears from the doorway with a frightening face. The guy then advances towards Paulie and, just like that, he prepares to punch the boy. Neil quickly stops him, but Terry attacks him at the same time as the monster's hand appears on the other side of the bed and begins to squeeze Paulie's neck. The boy screams and Neil tries to help him, but is stopped by his father. All seems lost until the real Terry appears in the room to see what's going on. However, instead of seeing the creature, he sees Paulie lying on the floor and Neil with his arm over him, suggesting that the two were fighting. Minutes later, Angela takes the young man to the bathroom and tries to treat the wound on his neck, which looks more like a burn. When the bandage is finished, she asks what happened, but Paulie refuses to talk because he knows no one will believe him. The conversation between the two continues, while in the living room, Terry calls Neil and demands to know what happened. Like Paulie, the young man refuses to tell the truth, which makes his father suspect that he has done this to the boy. Neil replies that he would never do anything like that to his brother, but Terry isn't convinced and calls everyone in the room to find out the truth. Again, Angela is more understanding and says that she will stay with Paulie overnight until he can sleep. However, Terry once again makes things difficult and, as well as locking the boy back in his room, he removes the lamp because he wants Paulie to learn to sleep with the light off. Fortunately, as soon as the couple go to sleep, Neil seizes the chance and goes to his brother's room, so as not to leave him alone with the monster. The boy hugs his older brother and finally manages to fall asleep next to him, while Neil does his best to stay alert all night. Another day passes and Terry goes to his room, where he finds his two sons asleep on the dresser. Feeling guilty about his attitude the night before, he calls them down for breakfast, but the boys aren't hungry and go to the garage. There, they look for weapons or anything they can use to fight the monster. Just then, the brothers start talking about their mother and Paulie asks if Neil knows where she was buried. Neil answered no, but Paulie then showed him the urn containing his mother's ashes. The young man begged his father to allow him to bring the ashes, because he believed that this way, his mother would always be around to protect them. On seeing the container, Neil gets emotional and decides to tell the whole truth about what happened on that fateful day. When the house burned down, the young man asked his mother to look under the bed to prove that the monster was real and that it was he who had caused the fire. His mother agreed, but she didn't manage to escape from the house in time and ended up being eliminated by the fire. After telling him all this, Neil decides that he will avenge his mother and goes looking for tools that he can use as weapons against the creature. Neil soon finds a drill and shows Paulie how to use it, as it could be useful in the confrontation. However, the young man says it's too risky, as they'd have to get too close to the monster to hit it with the drill. The two then continue searching, until they find something even better in a suitcase. Inside is nothing less than a chainsaw and, even though Paulie doubts that it will be able to stop the monster, Neil is willing to give it a try. However, just as he was about to test the machine, Angela sees everything and asks the young man to put it back. Neil refuses, but the woman loses patience and forces him to put the chainsaw away before someone gets hurt. Even without it, the brothers decide to face the monster in another way and, on returning to their room, they begin to create a new weapon. Using a broomstick, adhesive tape and flashlights, they create a kind of rifle, but instead of firing bullets, it emits strong lights to ward off the monster. When night comes, the two of them stay in Neil's old room and wait for the moment to confront him. In the meantime, the young man reveals to Paulie that the first time he saw the creature, he tried to protect himself by sleeping in other rooms of the house. The plan worked for a while and Neil deduces that the creature only attacks those who sleep on a bed. Along with this, he says he once heard that, when lying on a mattress, human beings shed their skin cells. As a result, the monster is likely to be attracted to these cells, until it finally tries to feed on its prey. In one of the creature's attacks, Neil managed to take a Polaroid photo of it and shows it to Paulie. The boy reveals that not only had he already seen this photo, but he had also tried to take another one night. His plan was to show the image of the monster to his father and thus reveal the whole truth and exonerate his older brother. To his misfortune, he didn't manage to take the photo and the monster continued to torment them for several nights. Neil then promises that it will all end tonight and the two continue to wait inside the room. After hours of waiting, Neil and Paulie fall asleep, but the boy wakes up when he hears the sound of a sheet being pulled. He rushes to wake up his brother who, on opening his eyes, sees the bed in the other room standing in front of them. Suddenly, the bed is thrown towards the boys and they are forced to run out of the room. However, the bed reappears in the hallway and, as it rests on the floor, a dark, acidic goo starts to ooze out of it. Next to it, two monstrous hands appear and the creature starts crawling towards the boys. Neil and Paulie run towards the room and quickly lock the door, with the monster forcing its way in. After much effort, the two manage to keep the door shut and the creature leaves, at least for the time being. Hours later, Neil and Paulie try to sleep in the living room, but Terry and Angela wake them up, telling them that they've been invited to sleep at Mr. Evans' house, Kara's father. Neil refuses to go, but the couple insist, believing that getting out of the house would be good for the kids. The two then comply and, when they get there, they are greeted by Kara, who is surprised by their visit. However, her father soon shows up and calls the two of them into the bedroom of his other sons, Richard and Roger. The thing is, the boys have no interest in visitors and, as well as not letting Neil and Paulie lie in their beds, they ignore them and continue to watch television. The brothers don't feel at all comfortable there and Paulie fears that the monster might follow them and attack everyone. The two then keep an eye out for any suspicious movement, until minutes later, Kara appears on the other side of the door. She invites Neil into the kitchen for a bite to eat and the young man agrees to go as soon as his brother has had some sleep. Paulie soon understands what's going on between the two of them and looks proudly at his older brother, who tries to cover it up. The evening goes on, with Richard and Roger watching TV, but they soon begin to annoy the brothers with spiteful comments. They accuse Neil of fleeing town because of the fire and what happened to their mother, which makes Paulie very angry. Neil retorts and says that it was a monster that caused all this and all he has to do is turn off the TV and the lights for it to appear in the room. While the argument between the boys continues, Angela prepares to take a shower and, from the other side of the bathroom, the monster appears, dressed only in a coat. Before she knows it, the creature has disappeared, but Angela senses that something is wrong and goes downstairs to find her husband. At the same moment, the lights in the house go out and Terry goes to see what happened, with Angela returning to the bathroom holding a lighted candle. When she gets there, she sees the creature dressed in the coat and believes it to be Terry's prank. However, the guy is in the garage trying to reconnect the power, but he ends up injuring his finger and goes to the kitchen sink to wash up, without noticing that the monster is behind him, watching him. Back at Kara's house, Richard and Roger decide to accept Neil's challenge and turn off all the lights. Then the young man tells them about the entity that lives under his bed and that it was responsible for the house fire. To prove his point, Paulie shows the wound on his neck, which frightens the boys. To make matters worse, a heavy mist begins to rise and soon afterwards, the monster appears inside the room. The four of them are startled to see the monster's true form and Paulie runs out of the window. To Richard's misfortune, the creature appears behind him, attacking his neck and removing his head without difficulty. Robert screams in despair, but this attracts the creature's attention and it turns him into one of its victims. When she hears the screams, Kara runs to the bedroom and finds her brothers already lifeless, but Neil tells her to lock herself in the room with the lights on so that the monster doesn't attack her. Although traumatized, she obeys and Neil returns home, where he finds Paulie together with Angela and Terry. The two ask what happened and Neil tells them to get out of the house, because the monster is after them. Angela, however, thinks it's just a prank by the brothers and accuses Neil of being the guy in the coat who scared her minutes ago. However, the couple soon discover that the boys were telling the truth when, on the other side of the door, the monster appears. Terry quickly sends Angela and his children running, but as he turns his back on the monster, it attacks him. The creature burns his face, devours his neck and finally destroys Terry's head with its bare hands. Despite this tragedy, the family has no time to lose and they flee to the bedroom, where Neil grabs his rifle with the flashlights on. He tries to calm Paulie and Angela down, telling them to flee the house and take cover among the streetlights. The three of them make their way to the exit, but without realizing it, Paulie steps into a trap and is pulled under the bed by the monster. Neil tries to reach him, asking the creature to take him instead, but nothing happens. Angela despairs, but Neil tries to calm her down, saying that he won't give up on his brother. He then asks Angela to find a rope to tie him up while he tries to get under the bed and, as soon as he finds Paulie, she must pull them back. Angela agrees and, with everything ready, Neil takes his flashlight and a knife and sets off to confront the monster. As he passes the bed, the young man enters the creature's home, but as he does so, the rope tied to his body breaks. Even so, the young man doesn't give up and finally finds his brother, trapped in a kind of cocoon. Luckily, the boy is fine, but Neil knows that the only way to end this is to eliminate the monster. Meanwhile, the creature appears behind them and lunges at Neil, who attacks it with his knife. The blow knocks the creature away and the brothers take the opportunity to flee. They find the other piece of rope and Neil helps Paulie to reach it, but he doesn't succeed. Fortunately, Angela appears on the scene and pulls the two boys out, with all three getting out of bed, unhurt. Afterwards, they head for the exit of the house and come across Kara, who is distraught to see that her entire family has been wiped out. Neil calls her to run away with them, but before they can, the monster reappears in the room and tries to attack the group. To protect his family, Neil lures the monster into the garage and there he arms himself with the chainsaw. With the weapon in hand, he advances towards the villain, but he counters with a punch that pushes Neil away and the young man ends up knocking over the urn containing his mother's ashes. The monster then tries to burn him with its hands, but he feels a strong pain when he touches the ashes. Neil then takes the urn and pours it all over the monster, which is eliminated thanks to the protection provided by the boy's mother. After such a difficult confrontation, Neil is finally free of the creature that eliminated his parents and tormented him for so long. He then reunites with Kara, Angela and Paulie in an embrace, while the police arrive on the scene to investigate the events of this macabre night. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.